Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. And I am really happy to be able to introduce you to my guest today. She's very accomplished. She has an amazing story to tell, and she does something that is so important that most of us just kind of don't really pay enough attention to. So with all that teasing and stuff, let me introduce you to Shelley Loving. She is a proud mom and wife to her best friend, Neil. She's a passionate advocate for healthy eating. And like many of us, Shelley got started because of an incident that happened in her life. And that was when her husband had a massive stroke in 2014. So Shelley took it upon herself to take care of him by becoming an expert in all areas of nutrition, including becoming a certified professional cook, an integrative nutritional health coach, a culinary nutrition expert, and a best-selling author on these subjects. So Shelley really believes that food is the most important decision you will make for the outcome of your overall health. And through her work, she really helps other people understand how healthy eating really is healthy living, isn't it, Shelley?
It really is. Mardi, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I am, like I said, I've been so looking forward to this podcast because I think we're all going to learn a ton of stuff from you today. So Shelley, tell us a little bit. I kind of gave a little bit of information there about what got you started on this journey. And what is it that kind of really you discovered about yourself or about eating in general, and maybe some of the bad habits we've developed as a country, as a culture, and as a society?
Before I get started, I want to thank you for having me. And I have been through divorce 20 years ago. And I wish that I'd had a Mardi in my life when that happened. So you're doing amazing work. And I just want to thank you from someone who's been in the trenches of that and had to crawl out by myself because I didn't have anywhere to turn. I didn't know where to turn. Thank you for allowing people to open up and grow and learn and recover and be the best versions of themselves post something tragic event like divorce. So thanks. I'm glad that you're doing what you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Of course. So a lot of people don't really think about when they're going through the trenches of anything, whether it's trauma, loss of a loved one, divorce, whatever it may be. The last thing that people usually think about is their nutrition. They are trying to survive, right? And nutrition is such an important part of healing, whether it's physical or mental. And I love talking about that. And so after my husband almost died, so his was a physical tragedy. And I say tragedy because he had 100% blockage in his left circumflex artery. Not to get sciencey, that is what the artery they call the widowmaker, because you don't have the typical signs of a heart attack. So it kills a lot of people. It used to kill men more than women. It is now the reverse. So it should now be called the widower maker. But it's important for me to tell people that I like to be real with people in my approach to teaching healthier eating, not healthy eating, because I do think there's a balance that eating what you love and eating healthy can coexist together. And so I just want people to know I'm real. I haven't always been the healthiest eater. I haven't always been the nutrition guru. And I'm not a nutrition guru. I'm still navigating things and learning things every day. And that's one of the reasons I keep going to school. I just keep wanting to learn. But my approach is very simple. And through my husband's heart attack, I then ended up deciding, well, we're going to change what we're eating because that has to be the answer. I don't know why, but that's where I went. I decided to go to nutrition school to help heal my husband, and he thought I had lost my mind. And I was just passionate that neither one of us were, because we didn't want him on 7 prescription drugs for the rest of his life. And that was his prognosis, Mardi. They basically slapped us with prescription drugs. Now, I'm not knocking the cardiologist. He, to this day, holds a special place in my heart because he saved my husband's life. But he's not taught nutrition. He is taught to save my husband's life. And so we had to take the reins on ourselves. And he got really adamant and diligent about sleep apnea. He had severe sleep apnea, which is one of the reasons he had his heart attack. So he got real serious about the machine, making it work, staying on it, not wearing it, right? If that's a double negative. And then I decided I'm going to do the nutrition piece and we were going to get healthy together. And that's what we did. So Marty, I would take a week of nutrition school and then I would apply it to the kitchen. A week at school, apply it to the kitchen. I did this for off and on 4 years. And what I started noticing was as we were staying diligent with this, not being like annoyingly healthy, we still had fun on the weekends and we never stopped. I love red wine. I never stopped drinking red wine. We would enjoy our parties with pizza and things like that. But Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, we were very diligent about eating what I have now discovered is so powerful, which is an anti-inflammatory diet. I think that was my biggest aha moment in school when I started listening and learning the power of food on our health and how it directly affects whether we are sick or well. And there's this beautiful place of living an anti-inflammatory lifestyle where your body will either begin healing or it will live optimally healthy, right? So I believe if there's people that are listening to this and they don't feel great and maybe they've gotten some bad test results, maybe they have high cholesterol, maybe they're battling diabetes or an autoimmune disease or migraines, whatever it is in your life, if you have a physical something going on that you just haven't tackled yet with success, an anti-inflammatory diet can be a beautiful platform for healing. So that's what I've been teaching for the past, I've been practicing it for 10 years and teaching it for about 7 now. So that's kind of its basic, and we could talk about that as much as you want to, but that is the basis behind all my teaching is just helping people understand how chronic inflammation really is the root cause of most physical and mental health issues.
Well, and I think, when you talked about the cardiologist prescribing the medications, that's really a uniquely Western style of medicine where it's treat the symptoms, treat the symptoms, treat the symptoms. And, I noticed that my husband had a stroke and, they were very good. I mean, they saved his life multiple times before he finally the effects of the stroke just overcame his body and he passed away. But there was never kind of like as a matter of fact, at one point in time, he really didn't have much appetite, my husband, because he was non-ambulatory. So he didn't move around and he was gaining a lot of weight. And I was concerned about that. And because I was having to lift him and a few other things, but also because I didn't think it was healthy for him, given as he was bedridden and gaining weight. And you know what they said? Listen, he's not going to live that long. Just give him whatever he wants. And I was thinking like, really? I mean, we're not even at the hospice stage yet. And this is what the doctors are saying. And I can see their reasoning because he wasn't eating anything. But that's when I kind of switched to more healthier eating. And I just cut out all processed food. So I live on a farm. So I'm not out there hoeing the garden and harvesting fruit and vegetables all day. But I do try to eat no processed foods. And that has made a big difference. Like I don't have joint pain. I do occasionally, but that's when I do something weird and, get it, but I can trace it back. So talk a little bit, if you don't mind, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but talk a little bit about the idea of anti-inflammatory foods, because I think we've heard that term, like we see it, but I'm not sure that people understand exactly what that means.
And before I answer that, you'd hit the nail on the head when you said processed foods. If people could just even not cut back on the ultra processed foods, meaning those boxes, cans, frozen foods, crackers, cookies, anything that's in a package that has, more than 10 ingredients is an ultra processed food. So thank you for bringing that up. That can be a very simple step that people can take tomorrow, which is not an easy step to take because those foods, they do it on purpose, are very addicting. And so my philosophy is if we can eliminate some of the foods that cause inflammation, there are foods that cause inflammation. And then if we can increase the foods that reduce inflammation, meaning there are foods out there that we can eat that act like little soldiers in our body inside that fight the free radicals in our body that cause things like cancer. They go in and they fight that inflammation and break it down. If we can have that little bit of both, so reduce those inflammatory foods, increase the anti-inflammatory foods, you're you're setting your body up to be super healthy and strong. And so anti-inflammatory foods are things like leafy greens. They're loaded with fiber and antioxidants. So some people don't know what an antioxidant is, and that's okay. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, but people don't know what it is. So it's basically a component inside fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes that go in your body and they actually rebuild your cells. So every day we have thousands of cells in our body that are dying off or getting weak from toxins in the air, stress, age, poor diet, lack of sleep. All of those things cause our cells to kind of weaken. Antioxidant rich foods help repair and regenerate new, healthy, strong cells. So when you have anti-inflammatory foods, they are usually high in antioxidants. So leafy greens is one of them. Probably my second favorite anti-inflammatory food are any fruit that ends in the word berry. Blueberries in particular, blueberries are a superfood. They're a phenomenon. So all of those berries that are red, blue, and purple, they have an antioxidant in them called anthocyanin. You don't have to remember that term. It took me 6 months to remember that term. But anthocyanin-rich foods are very high in antioxidants. So they go in again, they fight your body, they fight the free radicals and the inflammation in your body. So my husband and I he used to hate blueberries, by the way, but now he loves them. And every time, like 4 or 5 mornings a week, we take a handful I just put a whole bowl out for breakfast, and we usually end up eating like a handful. And he jokes now because he's a jokester, and he'll take them and he'll eat them. And he's like, I know, Shelley, antioxidants. That's right, Neil. That is right. And so I'm grateful that he eats the food because he was diligent and he really wanted the health goals as much as I wanted them for him. And so he'll eat anything I make now. It's wonderful.
And I love the idea of berries. I got introduced to this, a yoga instructor. I started yoga when I was 55, and a yoga instructor said, everybody should be eating a half a cup of fresh, ideally wild, but hey, do the best you can. A quarter to a half a cup of blueberries a day should be standard in everybody's diet. And so typically I have a bigger breakfast. And then for lunch, I have like Greek yogurt with some protein powder, and a half a cup of blueberries and some strawberries or cantaloupe or whatever I got mixed in. And it's kind of a lighter lunchy thing I could eat on the run. And it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It makes a huge difference. And people think that in order to be healthy, and I put that in quotes if you're only listening to audio, people think that being healthy has to be overwhelming and you have to clean out your pantry and your fridge and you have to do extreme steps like become vegan. I'm not against veganism. I think it's great if that works for you, but you don't have to be extreme to be a healthier version of yourself. It's those little tiny steps like eat some berries every day, drink your water, get your sleep, eat your protein, your fiber, and your healthy fat at every meal. It doesn't have to be super complicated. I just feel like today's society has made it so complicated that it almost seems unobtainable.
Right.
And I'm here to squash that and to encourage the everyday home cook that you too can put together a quick healthy meal, and or a handful of berries can also be extremely healthy.
Yeah, for a snack or something. And somebody told me this, and I don't remember who it was, but if you just shop on the outside of the grocery store and don't ever go in the aisles, you will be doing yourself a big favor because all the fresh produce and stuff. So can I ask you a little bit about, other than fruits, berries, and leafy green vegetables and berries, what other foods might be considered like anti-inflammatory?
Yeah, so herbs are a really good one. So think rosemary, parsley, cilantro, even things like ginger and turmeric. So turmeric is a root, just like ginger. If you can find it fresh at the grocery store, there's so many things you can grate it up and put it in a marinade, put it in soups, put it in smoothies. Same with ginger. Ginger is very anti-inflammatory. It's anti-everything. Ginger is also a superfood. So I would suggest those. A lot of people don't know that cinnamon is really, really good for us, and it is anti-inflammatory as well. Things like healthy fats. So think nuts, walnuts. You want to think the oily nuts like walnuts, cashews. They're very high in antioxidants. And then seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds. Those are really high in antioxidants as well. So they're anti-inflammatory.
And I think somebody told me pumpkin seeds, so I
Pumpkin
buy those
seeds.
pepitas.
Yes, me
We're both
too.
in Texas, so we can get stuff like this. I realize it might not be as common, but you get the ones that aren't salted and the raw ones,
Right.
right? Don't get the
Yep.
roasted salted because that kind of defeats the purpose, from what I've understood. So
Well, if you roast them yourself, you control the heat, you control. So I like to roast my nuts. I'm not a big raw nut eater. That's just a personal preference. So I just put them in the oven for like 6 or 7 minutes just to get the raw off of them with a little bit of sea salt and avocado oil cooking spray. And then I keep them in my car. They're on my desk. I make a trail mix. I crush, here's a really good idea. I love talking food, Marty. Here's a really good idea. You can take nuts or seeds or both and crush them up like in a coffee grinder or a chopper, and then just sprinkle them on a piece of chicken or salmon or white fish. And it's like a really great crust that's loaded with healthy fat and antioxidants. So that's I always keep raw nuts and seeds in my pantry and then do different things with them. Now, I will put them in smoothies raw and stuff like that. Personally, I just like a little bit of roast on my nuts.
yeah, and I love them on, like, when I do that fruit yogurt mix, I put some different kinds of nuts crushed up, so there's not a huge, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. But what about people who are saying, and I know I don't want to put you on the spot. So if this is not what you want to do, just let me know. Like, people that go to these kind of extreme diets, like I consider keto pretty extreme, where you're limiting, like you're not allowed to eat fruits and vegetables. Well, you're very limited, right? You're supposed to eat like butter, cheese, avocados, which are great. I mean, avocados are healthy, right?
Bacon.
And all the meat and everything. What does that do if you do have like chronic health issues, like if you are suffering from some of these inflammation conditions?
Yeah. So basically, most of the categories of foods that are inflammatory. So we're talking dairy, gluten. Well, gluten's not on the keto, but dairy, processed meats, artificial sweeteners. A lot of people think that they're okay. So they go all in on these foods that have no calories because they think they don't count. Artificials are super inflammatory. So the keto just kind of goes against all of that. So these people are eating a lot of bacon and a lot of sandwich meat on their salads, because they think they're being healthy. And then they're going and drinking a lot of milk and eating a lot of cheese and eating a lot of red meat. And all of that stuff is so inflammatory. And it's also hard for our body to digest red meat when we're eating it daily. It just is slow digesting. I'm not anti-red meat, but it's just that I don't feel like people follow that keto diet the way it's supposed to be done. It's a very complicated diet. You have to read a book to do that diet successfully. It's not about just eliminating carbs and sugar. It is about implementing getting your body into full ketosis. And people don't know what they're doing, and they're just feeding their body inflammatory food. So I am not a fan. It's a hard no for me.
Okay. Yeah. And I do, in all due respect to people that do keto, if it works for you and you're doing it, it's one of those things. I guess it's an individual preference. But a lot of the people I know that when keto first came out, say 15 years ago or something, jumped on the bandwagon, did keto, lost a ton of weight. They did. I mean, you can lose a ton of weight on keto, but at some point in time, it becomes unsustainable. And so you start letting carbs and stuff sneak back in, and you keep eating all those fats. Plus you start adding carbs and processed foods and stuff, and you just gain weight like crazy. I shouldn't say that. A lot of people had that experience where they yo-yoed really quickly when they came off keto. So, yeah, but
if you notice those diets in America, they're about 8 to 10 year span, and then a new one comes out. 8 to 10 years, then a new one comes out. Remember Atkins in the 90s?
Yeah.
Don't ever hear that anymore.
Right. Not too often. Even like South Beach now, what about something like the Mediterranean diet? That seems like it would be more along the lines of what you recommend.
Definitely. If I were to promote a diet, which I don't, that would be the closest thing that I would recommend. Yes, absolutely. I love everything about it. There's like, I'm not a big dairy person just because the dairy in America is so processed and it's so inflammatory. If you have, in Italy, they are getting it from, a cow in their own backyard, and they're making it daily, and it's not processed. It's made right there in the restaurant or in the back of the kitchen. And so it's just different. So I am a big fan of the Mediterranean diet. If you need a guide to get you to a healthier place. Yes, I agree.
Right. And what I guess I probably shouldn't use the term diet, but just a Mediterranean style of eating where you're eating the healthy fats, the fruit, the nuts, and then a moderate amount of protein, but that's not the heavy part of your diet.
Right. They do a lot of plant protein in the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah. So what about, what do you see as kind of a big myth that most people you talk to have about healthy eating that, you kind of see people come in with that misconception all the time when they come to your coaching services?
What a great question. I've never been asked that, but I love that question. So I think my biggest thing, and this falls in line with, I teach a lot of how to read a food label, and the false advertising on the front of food packages, especially here in America, are absurd. So people think when they're eating food labels that say low fat, no fat, or if they say sugar free, no sugar added, they think they're doing good, right? They think, okay, this is healthy. So that would be my biggest no-no is my biggest to do would be to ignore those gimmicks. And I call it the billboard of the food label because it's very misleading. It's all marketing. They want you to buy the product. And if they promise you something, then you think you're doing something right. And so I just don't like it when they advertise things like no sugar, sugar-free, no fat, low fat, which no fat, low fat is not a good thing. We need fat in our diet. Our brains are made of mostly fat. So when we're not feeding our brain fat, we are starving our brain, which is one of the hundreds of reasons why Alzheimer's, dementia, depression, mental health issues are on the rise, is because we are starving our brains. We are not feeding it what it needs to do its job. So I would say that would be the biggest misleading thing is people think they're eating the right thing because they're depending on these packaged food companies to tell them that it's healthy when it's really not.
Right. And I liked what you said earlier, something about if there's more than 10 items in the label. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So the fewer the ingredients, the better. So I tell people to put most of their focus on the ingredient list of the food, not the nutrition facts. How many calories and carbs are not near as important as what's in the food. And so when you're reading a food label, read the ingredient list. When you read the ingredient list, the top 5 ingredients on that list are the most important because the ingredients go from greatest to least. Now, if a product has 30 ingredients, probably don't want it. It's an ultra processed food, so it doesn't matter what's in it. We don't need that many ingredients in our food. And so if it has, less than 5, that's great. But if the first ingredient is an inflammatory food, dairy, gluten, sugar, artificial sweeteners, refined oils are the devil, we shouldn't buy the product. So it's not necessarily that it has only 10 ingredients. There's a caveat to that. What are those 10 ingredients? What are the first 5? The number one no-no, which we haven't talked about in this conversation, is refined oils. We should just be avoiding them at all costs. They are now known as a carcinogen. They're ultra-processed. They're fake. Our bodies can't process them, and they are causing a lot of health problems. More and more studies are coming out of how dangerous these oils are.
So are those the trans fats? Is that what refined?
Yeah. So it's like things like vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil. All of those are just not good. They go through 9 steps in a factory. 3 of those steps in that process of making that cheap inflammatory oil are bleaching. And 2 of them are deodorizing because it smells so bad, the human wouldn't consume it. Exactly. So it's, but they talk about it and they put a lot of money in the advertising and they say corn oil. If you look at a bottle of corn oil, it says heart healthy. It makes me sick. It's just very frustrating. So definitely read the ingredient list, and it doesn't matter how many ingredients are in it. Less than 10 is always better, but we need to know what are those 10 and are they good for us or are bad for us?
Okay. So let's give people, if you don't mind, let's give people a little bit of advice or guidance on what would be a healthy oil to look for. Cause I hate to say about don't touch these and then not say, but these might be good things to look for. So what might be, Shelley, good oils to look for in the ingredients list?
This is why we get along, because I always like to tell the bad first and then end with the good. So 3 oils that are actually 4 oils that are my favorite. So we have avocado oil, which is really good for heat. It likes heat. Oils are heat sensitive. So avocado oil is really good for anything in a saute pan, anything you're going to put in a casserole recipe that's going to be heated for a long period of time. Then we have coconut oil. Coconut oil is really good for baking. You can melt it down and use it 1 for 1 and replace it with any recipe you have that's, that says vegetable or canola or whatever. You can use coconut oil. It also likes heat. And I put coconut oil in my smoothies as well. And then extra virgin olive oil. So all 3 of these oils are really good forms of healthy fat, which is really good for the brain. So we should be cooking with these oils regularly. Extra virgin olive oil doesn't like heat. A lot of people don't know that, but it is very heat sensitive. So save your extra virgin olive oil for drizzling, marinades, and salad dressings. And then the 4th one is sesame oil. A little bit goes a long way. It's a very strong flavor, but sesame oil loves heat, and it's a really good source of healthy fat as well because it's made from sesame seeds. So those are my 4 go-tos. I don't have anything else in my kitchen. I have ghee, which is a healthy fat. It's a clarified butter. But for oils themselves, those are the 4 I have.
Okay, wonderful. And I just recently started, because I used to use extra virgin olive oil when I would do any kind of sauteing. And then I read somewhere and I switched to avocado oil. And it doesn't really give much of a flavor, but it just, it cooks better for some reason. Like it gives you that sizzle that you're really looking for when you're doing that.
It's because it loves heat. It doesn't break down.
Yeah.
And I like that it doesn't have flavor because I'm using the oil to keep my stuff from sticking, to add a healthy fat, and to add, help the consistency of the cooking. So, and keep things moist. So I'm glad that it doesn't have a flavor because then it's very versatile. You can put it in any recipe.
Exactly. Yeah. Shelley, we have covered like a tidal wave of information on food and anti-inflammatory ingredients and cooking. What do you think you want people to remember most from this conversation?
This sounds silly, and I've been asked this before, and I just keep saying the same thing. If you learn how to read a food label, your health will change. Because when you start identifying the things that you should be avoiding and you don't read the gimmicks and you just learn how to read the food label correctly and you start slowly stocking your pantry and fridge with healthier ingredients, your body will be healthier. So just learn how to do a simple thing like read a food label, and it will change your health in the best way.
And I really love your approach that this doesn't have to be like an all or nothing, go throw out everything you've got in your house and start from scratch. I really like the moderate kind of approach that you use to get people to start becoming healthier. So
Mardi, we're busy. We're all busy. We don't have time to adhere to a weird, strange, complicated diet. Yeah. We're all busy moms and wives and grandmothers and aunts and friends and workers. And we need to get some food in our body every day. So let's make it quick, simple, and delicious.
Love that. Shelley, if people want to find out more about what you do or reach out to you to see if they can work with you, what's the best way to do that?
My website is shelleycanhelp.com. So that's SHELLEY. And all of my social media, and I'm on all of them except Twitter, is at Shelley Can Help. It's super easy. And then if you want to email me, it's info@shelleycanhelp.com. And the only thing that's not Shelley Can Help is my cookbook. It's called What's on Your Fork, and it's on Amazon.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to go get that. I didn't even know you had a cookbook.
Mardi.
I have to go get that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to encourage everybody else. And then let's have Shelley come back on and we can all talk about our favorite recipes we've cooked.
Let's do it. We'll cook together.
So thank you so much, Shelley. I really appreciated you being here. And thanks for sharing all this information.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me and let me use your platform to spread my message.
Oh, you are welcome. And thank you all for listening into this episode of The D Shift. And don't forget to tune in again for the next one. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.